The Ghost of KOTOR. For over 20 years, Star Wars fans have been haunted by a question. No, not who shot first. Not is Starkiller canon, but something far more dangerous. Will we ever get another KOTOR? And at the Game Awards 2025, Lucasfilm walked onto the stage, pressed play, and whispered the most powerful words in RPG history. Once, so we cue the dramatic choir, cue the hooded figures, cue Reddit threads igniting like Mustafar, because this new Star Wars game, whatever the final title ends up being, is not just another lightsaber adventure. It is very deliberately positioning itself as a spiritual successor to Knights of the Old Republic. No, not a remake, not KOTOR 3, but something wearing its DNA like ancient Sith armor. And today, we're breaking down what that actually means, how this game connects to KOTOR, how it differs, where in the Star Wars timeline is it likely to take place, who's building it, and why the community is both hopeful and traumatized at the same time. So, at the Game Awards 2025, what was actually shown? Well, we know there's some connection to KOTOR with the game because it shows the Leviathan. If you played KOTOR 1 or KOTOR 2, the Leviathan plays a major part, at least in KOTOR 1, but it's kind of brought up in KOTOR 2 as well. Through a big ship you have to kind of explore very early on in the game. And if you haven't played it, I suggest you go play those two right now. Two of the best RPGs ever made in existence. Yes, that's a biased take. Yes, I have played them. Yes, they do hold up. But beyond the Leviathan, there's not much in the trailer. It seems that maybe there might be a pull between the light side and the dark side. At the very end of the trailer, we have a light up blue lightsaber on one side, dark shadows on the other side. That could be representing player choice if we're really looking into this thematically. And the only other thing I really want to take away from the trailer is that the name is Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic. So not Knights of the Old Republic 3, Fate of the Old Republic. And they've come out and stated that it's not a direct game in the Knights of the Old Republic series, however, more of a spiritual successor. So we know it's not KOTOR 3, but what does a spiritual successor of KOTOR even look like? Number one, you're probably going to have player identity unknown. Just like KOTOR, you're not going to be a famous character in the Star Wars saga. You're not going to be a Skywalker or a Skywalker adjacent character. You're going to be someone that is becoming important. And that's crucial because KOTOR wasn't special due to lightsabers. It was special because you discovered who you were. My personal favorite was KOTOR 1 when you were discovering who Revan was and who you were and adjacent to Revan. And that's all I'm going to leave it. If you haven't gone and played it, you need to go play it. Another key point to being a spiritual successor for KOTOR is moral ambiguity. You want to be able to make those choices. They need to line up with things that have happened in KOTOR 2 and KOTOR 1. And that is not the story, but the philosophy. Think Krea's lectures. The idea that the Force itself may be manipulated. You can fall on the light or the dark side of the path. Power having consequences regardless of the intent. You might do the wrong thing for the right reasons and might be left thinking, hey, is that going to give me light side or dark side points? These are some options we need to explore with this new game. Number three, and equally as important as the first 2 points, is we need true companions. Companions with ideologies, some soul to them, some substance. I want to hear a droid say meatbag to me, something fun, but something that you have to contend with as you go out through the story. You need to be able to help them or go against them. Maybe kill them, or in the old games, they romance them. I'm not too big on the romance options, but if those options are there, more power to the player. I want to feel like these are real people and not just some random NPCs that are along for the ride. So you want to see companions argue, maybe not quit, not just cheerlead, but argue, which is very Old Republic coded. These are all going to be great, but what is not probably going to make it into this spiritual successor category, and that's going to be the combat. Many of the biggest gripes people have with KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 in terms of the gameplay is the combat. It's what holds people back from getting in. And the combat in KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 is more like D&D. Okay, it's D20 based rolls on dice. You're building a class, building your character out, and you're rolling those dice every round. I love it. I personally think it's one of my favorite types of combat, but I also love tactical and strategy games. So what are we going to get instead? We're probably going to get some real-time action, like we had in Mass Effect with some tactical pauses or an ability-driven encounters. So, like I said, Mass Effect or maybe something closer to Dragon Age Inquisition. Something that's easier to get most people into, but also still kind of hold that tactical pause that you want to have builds, you want to have your abilities in the game. And how this game is probably going to be presented is fully cinematic. That's the main thing these days. Star Wars games always have large budget behind them typically. I'd be surprised if this one does it with Lucasfilms getting involved and this post Disney Star Wars era. So we're probably going to have performance captured individuals. It's going to be built for the modern audiences, which means less text walls, but also less room to hide weak writing. So we need strong writing. No pressure. No pressure, Argonaut. But we need strong writing for this game. Something else that's really going to come to play in this new day and age is the canon sensitivity. Unlike original KOTOR games, which was pretty much pure Legends freedom, this game exists in post-Disney canon ecosystem. So every decision must fit Lucasfilm story guidelines while avoiding breaking future content they already have planned, and it still needs to feel impactful. And that's one hell of a tightrope to walk. So, if that's the tightrope they're walking, we need to know who is making this game. And to be honest, the development is being led by a studio that is stacked with former BioWare veterans, RPG narrative leads from more classic Western RPGs, and Lucasfilm Games oversight. Now, Lucasfilm hasn't had the greatest track record recently, but they brought it back with Battlefront 2, and I'm hoping to see it here again. And to be honest, the Star Wars Jedi Survivor series is killing the game. Just everything adjacent to that has not been doing so hot. But the project leadership includes a creative director known for choice-driven storytelling. That's Casey Hudson, the creator of KOTOR, the original KOTOR series, the creator of Mass Effect, which is like two of the greatest choice-driven RPGs, in my opinion, to ever be made. So I am really excited for him to be back narrating another Star Wars game. We're also going to have narrative designers who've worked on other branching dialogue systems, along with combat designers experienced in hybrid action RPGs, also leaning into more of that real time with pause. They also did come out and say they were looking at games like God of War, which is absolutely insane, but I'm hoping for the best here. I'm hoping for that Mass Effect style, or because, Casey Hudson worked on Mass Effect, or that Dragon Age Inquisition style. I really love that style too, if we're not sticking with the traditional Star Wars KOTOR style. I'm also a big fan of Larian, and the original Sin series is one of my favorite duos of games ever to be made also. So I would not be opposed to them leaning into the tactical side, going more strategy, more tactics. But we're getting another Star Wars game. I believe it's called Zero Company or Bad Company. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's coming out and it's pure tactics, that XCOM style tactics that I really enjoy. So I doubt they would double down on this, but you never know. Overall, we know this is not a rookie team, and this is also a we know exactly what expectations are type of team, which is both reassuring and terrifying. And I'm really hoping that Argonaut Games and Casey Hudson and the amazing team he has compiled there can really pull off this story, because it's got a lot of expectations after 20 years of wait. So when does this game take place? Because it really has a lot of options, and I have to put here that this is pure speculation. Nothing here is confirmed. This is just me thinking off the dome. What might we see? Well, the story could make sense in the late Old Republic, which is adjacent to the old KOTOR games. We see ancient Sith architecture in this era. We could see Jedi orders that are still fractured from all the warring. There might be no Republic branding on any of the ships. This could place it centuries before the films and still echo the likes of Revan, Exar Kun, and the Mandalorian Wars. Lucasfilm has been quietly kind of recanonizing vibes without naming any of this, so I wouldn't be surprised if I see it here, but I'm not sure it's the most likely. Now, if they really want to step away from the KOTOR series, they're probably going to pick a different era. So I'm thinking High Republic on the Dark Edge. This is another strong possibility. The High Republic era hasn't been explored, and you can put it on the dark edge of the galaxy, which is far from the core worlds, so anything that's major going on. You essentially would have Jedi at ideological crossroads. You're going to see these gray Jedi with growing interest. They could lean one way or the other. They're not likely to be good, but they're also not likely to be Sith. They're just morally gray. They're like these Ronin types, these samurai wizards in space. And I think these are some of the most interesting Jedi for fans to kind of delve into. You have a lot of High Republic novels to work with. And in this era, the Force is treated as a mystery and not institutional. We lost essentially the Jedi and the Old Republic. This mystery has come back. It's not institutionalized with these giant Jedi temples back yet necessarily that you see in the Skywalker saga. So there's a lot of intrigue, a lot of mystery, and I think this area could be really cool to explore in the game setting. The third option they have, and probably the least likely, I would be really surprised if they hit this, could be like a post Return of the Jedi. It's possible, but it's pretty crowded. There's a lot of legacy characters still left over after the Return of Jedi. And this game wants mythic distance. I mean, the most likely answer is a new canon era inspired by the Old Republic, maybe in between kind of that transition era from the Old Republic and the High Republic. Close enough to feel familiar, but far enough to avoid all the legal landmines is probably the most likely. Even though it's the most likely, what might the community want? What is it expecting? What do you guys want? You can drop it in the comments below, but let's be honest. The Star Wars gaming community is nostalgic, especially in the KOTOR era. And we could be a little exhausted waiting for this game to come out, and we might be emotionally scarred by canceled projects. So, what do the people want? We just want meaningful choices. We want companions that matter. We want a story that respects our intelligence. These Star Wars stories sometimes are a little too kid-like. Sometimes we want a more mature story in the Star Wars universe. And finally, we want a no live service nonsense. Single player games, live service has no business being in single player games. Make a great single player game. Let it stand alone. Let the fans love it. Let us buy into it. And if you want to bring something back, if you want to bring more content back, bring it in the form of DLC or a modding community. Those are the best options to go. This game is really carrying the weight of KOTOR, the shadow of BioWare's decline, and the hope that Star Wars RPGs can still be a great experience. So, no pressure, just 20 years of waiting. In conclusion, it's not KOTOR 3, but it's something important, and it doesn't need to be KOTOR 3. What it needs to be is brave enough to let us choose, brave enough to let us fail and die and maybe soft lock ourselves into something we didn't really mean to happen through our choices. We need to let the choices hurt, and we need to let the Force to be complicated again. Because if this game succeeds, it won't just be another Star Wars game, especially to me. It'll be the moment Star Wars RPGs remembered who they used to be, and maybe who they still can be. If you are a fan of KOTOR 1 or 2 or Star Wars RPG games, hit that like, hit that subscribe, stay tuned. I'm planning on covering this, and I think the other new game I'm going to cover a lot is the new Divinity game coming out. Two of my favorite series back to back. It's going to be a great couple years for me, frothing at the mouth for these games. So stay tuned, be ready, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.